This is the Bozeman Warming Center. This is Bozeman's only emergency shelter. So we have a capacity of 120 guests in a pinch. We are operating out of a former roller skating rink. If you look around, you might see some familiar sights from the roll arena. But now we're using this space as a shelter to help the most vulnerable people in our community. When people walk through this door for the first time, it is frequently the low point of their life. They never anticipated needing overnight shelter services. They never anticipated staying in a shelter. And that is the lens that we have to treat people through. I think a lot of people suggest that people should go to a warmer place or go experience homelessness somewhere where it might be easier. And the reality of that is that this is home. This is home to our guests. What safety net they have, what network of friends they have, the supports that exist for them. They love this place for all the reasons we love this place, because it's beautiful, because it's welcoming, because we take care of our neighbors here. And to just suggest to go somewhere else, to uproot yourself because life might be easier, that's as difficult of a proposition for a shelter guest as it is for you and me.
The majority of the folks that I interact with on the street have lived here.
Okay.
And they have grown up here, or they were born here and lived here as a child and moved back here. And then when they came back here, like, housing was, unaffordable. They didn't have resources to do anything, or they have barriers to getting into permanent housing. And so, like, there's all of these things. There's a myriad of reasons why people end up in our shelter.
I've been in Montana for about 9 years now, and I've always worked inside Yellowstone Park. I lost my job, which means I lost my housing. But I knew people here in Bozeman that had apartments, but with the influx of people from other states, the rent has gone high, and I can't afford $1,700 a month. I work for Ted's Montana Grill. I make $18 an hour, which is more than I've ever made anywhere else. But $900 a paycheck does not cut it for rent, food, electricity. So I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place.
The workforce in a lot of our communities are being left behind. The increase in wealth wasn't trickling down to the people who were, keeping these communities afloat.
You said a lot of these people work at Town Pump and
Yep.
Winco.
Yeah, so all of these guys right here, they all work at Town Pump. All those guys on that street work at Town Pump. And then down on, like, that street that we just came up, they work at Winco. Just one day, I wish everybody would be able to, like, experience these conversations and these humans, or, like, come and spend a day in our shelter and just, like, have a conversation with them, because really they are the most incredible humans I have ever had the pleasure of interacting with. These are people who would literally give the last of everything they have to someone who has less. And it is inspiring constantly for me to interact with them. One thing that I wish that people understood is that a lot of phone calls that I get they're from families, and it's one terrible medical crisis, or one unpaid medical bill, or one raised rent, or a lost job, or something like that, that's how close you are to being in this situation.
If somebody has experienced homelessness for over 20 years, like, that inherently is resilience. I mean, I can't even imagine. Like, I just can't even rationalize what it means to keep going, living through those winters, fighting to eat.
It's been, I can say at least probably almost 5-6 years that I've been homeless. If I want to talk about some of the worst parts, being scared all the time, being like having no idea what you're going to do at the like in the end of the night, like trying to figure out food. That's being homeless. That's real life. Coming here and knowing, like, if something happens, or like they know that you're working on stuff, and as long as you're like honest with everything, like, you have a place to come home to, and having that. Yeah, that's intense. Like, it's not like you can't explain that unless you've gone through it.
I just really have learned to believe in the housing first model. If you're identifying those individuals with the highest barriers to housing, people that have experienced chronic homelessness, the housing first model is housing first. That if you give them housing, the good things happen afterwards. Which is opposite of the classic conception of, like, those individuals doing things to deserve it. That if housing is provided, they're more stable, they're more likely to engage in sobriety, they're more likely to find income or employment, that behaviors begin to correct themselves, that the housing is what creates the stability for those things to happen. And that by providing housing, quite literally can put years on people's lives. And those years are valuable. Their lives are worth it. And if we have the ability to help somebody live longer, like, seems pretty straightforward to me.
Bozeman is still small enough to where they can and do help when it's needed. The friendliness of the people, that sounds so cliche, but I haven't met anybody here that is not nice or willing to go out on a limb for people. And with HRDC building a new warming center, Bozeman is making sure that these people have a roof over their head.
As Montanans, I think our culture is to take care of our neighbors, and the guests of the shelter, whether we like it or not, they are our neighbors, and we owe them the care. You have people coming from these cities with this great amount of experience and knowledge. And I do feel hopeful for the future. There are so many bright, so many talented people who are coming to our community. All we need for them to do is lean in and help us solve some of these problems. We help our neighbors here in this community, and that extends to our shelter guests as well. It's amazing what extending people a little bit of compassion does for your own soul.